Jack Finlaw was born in rural Salem County, New Jersey, on the Delaware Bay, and prophetically came home from the hospital on Easter Sunday. Because even back then, Jack was a rising star. His life readied him to be lifted higher and higher. Jack's proud parents were Father Jack, known as Jake in the little town of Alloway, New Jersey, and his mom, Charlotte. Jake was a very extroverted entrepreneur who worked as a school teacher and then acquired a small insurance agency. He also served many years as the mayor of Alloway. Charlotte was a registered nurse who spent most of her career in obstetrics delivering babies. That's Jack lifting his mother's apron higher and higher in 1956. Jack decided at an early age that he would push his way up to great heights by spending time with the right people.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today.
Jack's maternal grandparents, Charlotte, also known as Nani, and Jim Davis, lived in Alloway. But his great-grandparents lived in New York City. And Jim and Nani often took Jack on weekends to explore the Big Apple's museums, music, and restaurants. He was the only kid from his little country town who boasted of having visited the Statue of Liberty and the top of the Empire State Building. Some say Jack's fashion sense suffered a bit in high school, but it rebounded in those college and law school years. Jack was the oldest of 4 kids in his family, and here he is shown with his 2 sisters, Dawn and Beth, and his brother Tim. That's Tim's wife, Veronica, on the right, and of course, Jack's parents in front. Nani taught Sunday school, and she instilled her love of life and spirituality in Jack from an early age. It's still critical to him today. While attending Georgetown University's School of Foreign Service in the 70s and studying international affairs, Jack first met Greg Movizian, who he would later commit to as a life partner when they reunited in Denver. Here are Jack and Greg hanging out with another notable graduate of Georgetown's School of Foreign Service.
We had faculty like Henry Kissinger, Jean Kirkpatrick, Madeleine Albright. It was very illustrious. Although one of Jack's favorite professors was Professor Giles. On Madison's birthday, Professor Giles would pull out a pitcher of martinis and serve everyone in class a martini, which was legal at the time in Washington, D.C. So things like that give us a common framework for remembering our college days and how much fun they were, while at the same time how stimulating they were.
While working with the United States Representative and now Senator Barbara Mikulski in Washington, D.C., Jack had researched Western issues such as wild horses and unfettered access to national parks by RV owners. Little did he know that the real issues would be oil and gas, brew pubs, opera, weed, and civil unions. Looking to scale new heights, Jack moved to Colorado to attend the University of Denver College of Law. Luckily, Jack landed in a study group with the likes of Mary Kelly, Dan Riley, and Seymour Joseph. Here they are on one of their famous pretend road trips, parked outside the law school on an expired meter.
We were doing moot court in law school, and Jack decided that he would tell Dan that I wanted to be his partner, and that he would tell me that Dan wanted to be my partner. And this is how...
Neither of which had ever been said.
No,
by either.
not in the least. And just as gullible as we were, we thought, well, all right, sure. And that was the beginning of it. And anybody who knows that knowing look that Jack gives you when he's trying to explain something to you that you need to understand, I have followed it ever since, because he was right. So he is the reason why we got married.
And Jack was... and has always been many steps ahead of most people, so he was many steps ahead of us.
Professor Ved Nanda, who supervised Jack on the law review, recognized Jack's desire to have the highest seat on the couch. DU's 1981 class graduation party was held at the Phipps Tennis House, but for some reason, graduation pictures were taken at the playground down the street. One of the best years of Jack's life was the year after law school, when he clerked for the Honorable Robert H. McWilliams at the United States Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. Judge McWilliams died in April of 2013. There is no doubt that the judge would be proud that Jack is the first recipient of the award named for Judge McWilliams. Jack remembers the judge as gracious and kind and a hard-working jurist who often repeated his favorite admonition, "Keep the footnotes to a minimum."
Bob adored Jack Finlaw. He was one of his exceptional clerks, I believe. I think it's because they came to that position with similar attributes and similar characteristics. So for everything that we loved about Bob, we love that about Jack.
Jack was now ready for a climb up the corporate ladder. Turning down offers in the legal departments of several large out-of-state oil companies, Jack had grown very fond of Colorado, so he decided to stay in our beautiful state. He began practicing in the Natural Resources Department of Kirkland & Ellis's new Denver office, soon switching to the Corporate and Securities Department. From there, he was hired by cable entrepreneur Glenn Jones and worked for Jones Intercable for 15 years. He was named as Deputy General Counsel at Comcast when Comcast acquired Jones Intercable in 1999. But alas, that called for a lot of commuting to Philadelphia over the next 3 years, and after having lived in Colorado for over 2 decades, Jack was not about to make that move. In the summer of 2002, while chairing the board of the directors of Opera Colorado, Jack embarked on a long-awaited sabbatical year. He volunteered at the opera offices and at one point acted as chief operating officer of the opera company during its transition. The following summer, when Jack's sabbatical was coming to an end, it just so happened that Denver was embarking on the construction of a new opera house, and John Hickenlooper was elected Denver mayor.
Well, the first time when Jack came in to be interviewed, and I didn't know him before, the thing that struck me was that he was very even, very steady. You could tell that he was someone who would be unflappable in all manner of situations and turbulence and people losing their heads. We had a need at theaters and arenas for somebody who understood not just rock and roll, but classical music and theater, opera. And Jack had relationships in all of those arenas and was very hep to the current scene as well. And everything Jack has touched has turned to gold.
Jack began work as Mayor John Hickenlooper's director of Denver's Theaters and Arenas Division in September 2003 and remained in that position through 2010, often giving construction tours to potential opera benefactors. Jack was in charge of the Colorado Convention Center, Red Rocks Amphitheater, the Denver Coliseum, as well as the Ellie Calkins Opera House, the Buell Theater, and Betcher Concert Hall. Jack's theater and arenas job reached its peak of excitement with the naming of the Ellie Calkins Opera House. Jack is shown here with his partner Greg Movizian and Ellie Calkins, namesake of the Opera House.
'Cause he had high hopes, he had high...
Here's a candid shot of then Mayor Hickenlooper studying Jack's resume to consider moving him up to his next job. Due to Jack's many varied accomplishments for the city, Mayor Hickenlooper proclaimed July 2, 2010 as Jack Finlaw Day. But wait! Can one get any higher? In August 2011, after Mayor Hickenlooper became Governor Hickenlooper, Jack joined his offices as Chief Legal Counsel and Policy Advisor. In addition, he currently advises on all executive orders, judicial appointments, and ethical issues. Here, Jack participates on a panel at the Stern College of Law in 2014 discussing lessons learned after the voters approved a constitutional amendment for recreational marijuana. There is always something to explain. On a more personal note, Jack and Greg have been extremely active since the early 1980s at St. John's Episcopal Cathedral in Denver. There he has taught both adults and children in church school. Jack has been a leader in the Episcopal Church's move toward the full inclusion of gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people. He served on the church's task group that has developed a liturgy for the blessing of same-sex relationships. Jack and Greg will be celebrating their 30th anniversary together this month. The family is rounded out by their 10-year-old Springer Spaniel, Harry. They intend to be married in the Episcopal Church when it is legal in Colorado. Today, in addition to his real job in the governor's office, Jack continues to reach for a higher level of cultural appreciation as a member of the board of the Denver Public Library Friends Foundation. He and Greg are co-chairing the foundation's Book Lovers Ball this year. They are big supporters of the Colorado Symphony Orchestra and Wonderbound Dance Troupe. Join us as we offer our sincere congratulations to the recipient of this high honor, the 2014 Robert H. McWilliams Jr. Alumni Professionalism Award, Jack Finlaw.